Hey guys, this is Ryan.
And this is Kyle.
And you just so happen to be listening to
The Doctor's Watcher, the improvised chemistry podcast about every episode of Doctor Who.
Fun fact about the human body, you're doing improvised chemistry all the time.
Very true.
So how's it going, Kyle? It's been a minute since we recorded last.
Yeah, it has been. I'm doing all right. And yeah, actually the reason that it's been a little while is because we rescheduled our previous recording and then we ended up just canceling that. But the reason we rescheduled it originally was because I was out of town to go see the Savannah Bananas. I don't know if you've heard of them or not.
Only when you mentioned it 2 episodes ago.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, I just edited that one today, actually,
Nice.
Which is why I still remember pretty well. But yeah, I want to hear about it. Like, what was that like? The Globetrotters of baseball.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. They played their rivals, the Firefighters. I guess there are a few teams that they play against. Usually they'll play against the Party Animals, but this time they were playing the Firefighters. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. They do a lot of tricks like, catching a fly ball while jumping a backflip, or
Awesome.
the ball will get hit out to an outfielder, and instead of just like catching it immediately, he'll kind of like hit it with his glove and like pop it up into the air, and then he'll catch it. And
Nice.
so yeah, stuff like that. It was pretty fun. I guess sort of their whole ethos is fans first. So there's a lot of like crowd engagement. They've got like special rules designed to like make the game move quickly, basically. Including a 2-hour time limit.
Nice.
Which, yeah, is pretty nice for baseball. It can often go like much, much longer than that.
Right.
But yeah, so like, I guess kind of some of the special rules are that you just get 1 point for winning like the whole inning, basically. So, the first team gets up to bat in the first half of an inning, and, maybe they get like 1 run that inning, for example. And then the Bananas go up in the second half of the inning, and like as soon as they get 2 runs, they've won that inning, and the inning just ends. Like, even if there's not necessarily like 3 outs yet or whatever, they just like get the point for the inning and they move on to the next inning. Until the very last inning. In the last inning, you do get a point for every run. So like both teams still have a chance, basically.
Nice. That does seem quite a bit, compressed and more exciting than normal baseball.
And yeah, like I mentioned, they've got a 2-hour time limit. So like once an hour 50 has passed, like they won't start a new inning, even if they haven't gotten to the 9th inning yet or whatever. They'll just like finish that current inning, and that's the game. I thought for a minute when we were watching, I was wondering if we were going to get to all 9 innings or not, but we did. Like they got through the whole game in time. So, yeah, we saw them in Anaheim, and, as like sort of a fans first type situation, it's like very family oriented. So there was kind of a lot of like Disney references and tie-ins that I didn't really give a shit about. But
yeah.
And, it's like pretty kid friendly in general, which like is fine. You know what it is going into it, basically. But
Right.
Yeah, it was fun.
I bet that's a pretty funny surprise for kids who, get used to seeing like the Savannah Bananas play, and then they watch a real baseball game with dad and it just sucks. It takes forever.
Yeah, it takes forever and there's no cool tricks.
Right.
They have, I think they called him the world's tallest batter, who's just like a guy who plays on stilts.
Awesome.
Uh-huh.
I guess that would really adjust the strike box, wouldn't it?
Yeah, seriously.
I think that's what it's called. Anyway, that's cool. That'd be pretty scary, like swinging a bat up on stilts.
Uh-huh. He actually made it to first base, though. I think he got out after that, but...
Nice. Yeah, if you could get good at it, you could probably run really fast.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's cool. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. So, what have you been up to?
Well, definitely had a few adventures. I think I had last episode or two, I was talking about going to see the EDM concert in Vegas, and we did do it.
Nice.
It was up very late. I was mentioning how our bus ride home wasn't even scheduled until 4:30 a.m. and how I hoped that we could, get an earlier ride. Turns out we could and did every night.
Nice.
So that was good. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we had a pretty good time in Vegas, because we stayed a whole week and that was only 3 days. Part of the time I was working, but, remotely, but, not very hard. So yeah, it was a great time. But I also had a bit of an adventure, just 2 days ago, right here in the house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got up in the morning and, my partner asked me to, was it 2 days ago? Yeah, it must have been. I feel like it was yesterday. I don't know. Time means nothing. But anyway, it must have, it was Friday. So, I got up in the morning and my partner asked me to, get a package that had come, kind of early on the doorstep. So I opened the door and, I saw something like dark and fast moving, like dart into the house. And it was like way in my peripheral. I barely saw it at all. I was thinking like, oh, it looks like, a big ass moth came in.
Uh-huh.
So I brought in the package and, whatever, got my coffee and breakfast and, went to my office because I was working on Friday. And I came up a few hours later, like to refill my water or something. And there was kind of like all these little messes on the floor, like little white smears. And I'm like, okay, that's not like a moth.
Uh-huh.
Did like a bat get in here or something? Because it really looked like a dark, something dark.
Sure.
So like, I set my coffee mug down by the sink and like something kind of off in the corner, like scrabbled around and hit a few things and like darted to the side. And it was still so fast, like I could not see it.
Uh-huh.
But it was like, damn, that was a huge ass moth or like a smallish bat or something. Eventually we figured out it was bird shit on the ground and we finally found him. He was like this cute little like gray and yellow bird that had darted into the house and like, like idiots, we were like, how do we get him out?
Right.
I opened the front door and kind of propped it open. And then we were sort of like standing by there. And I was like, I finally realized like, there's no way he's going to fly out this door if we're kind of milling about by it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So, and it was like a rainy day. So what we ended up doing is my partner left for some appointment that she had for a couple hours. And I just propped the door open and went downstairs to my basement again, or my office again in the basement. And because it was rainy, we didn't have to worry too much about like a lot of bugs getting in and stuff.
Right.
But I just kind of like left the door propped open for a couple hours. And well, I did, of course, mop up probably 10 different little poops all over the floor. And then a couple hours later, I came up and the rain had kind of died down. So I closed the door and I walked all over and couldn't find any more poops and didn't hear any like darting or scrabbling or, little chirps or anything. So like, unless he, got himself or she, I don't know what gender of bird it was, but unless they, got themselves stuck, maybe like under a, somewhere low to the ground or like in some crack somewhere, like I'm pretty sure they got out. And,
nice.
They haven't like, as far as I'm aware, they didn't get lost and die and like start rotting because we didn't, smell anything gross or didn't hear any like desperate chirps or whatever.
Yeah, you'd probably know by now.
It ended well. Yeah, right. You'd hope, at least. But yeah, that was quite the adventure. It was kind of had some twists. I don't know why. I like for the longest time I thought it was just like a giant moth because there are some pretty big moths around here. Like why did I go to bat? I mean that seems unlikely, but it was like dark. It looked dark in my peripheral. But we figured out that like my partner has this. She likes to put like seasonal wreaths on the front door. And apparently those birds like really like the summer one. And it's like a cute thing. It's like got some wood and like some blue flowers. They're fake, blue fake flowers and white fake flowers. And I guess it's just really appealing to birds. Cause like even this morning, it was like late morning. She was like, hey, there's another package. Can you go get it? And like, I was thinking like, I wonder if there's a bird on the wreath. And I like opened the door just a little bit. And, sure enough, something went and like flew off the wreath. Like they just love hanging out there.
Nice.
So like, I just have to be, I guess, aware of our little bird friends that hang out on the front door because they might get confused and fly in the house.
I guess that means that your partner makes pretty good wreaths.
Yeah, I don't think she even made it. It was just like she bought it somewhere,
Nice.
Home Goods or some shit. So yeah, that was exciting and fun. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much all I have to report.
Right on. Cool. I think you mentioned before we started recording that you had a couple of jokes for today's episodes.
I do. The one for this episode is what has two butts and kills people?
I'm not sure.
An ass in.
Nice.
So, speaking of two asses, why don't you and I start talking about the episode?
Sounds good. I don't know if you can hear that on my recording, but there are a couple of explosions happening off in the distance.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear that via Discord, but usually I can in the actual recording, so
Nice.
that'll be interesting to hear.
So this is the 25th episode of Season 4, which is the third episode of the Moonbase.
Cool.
And this episode is another missing episode. So I decided to go with the official BBC animation again.
Okay, cool. Yep, I saw some stills from that. Like, of the Doctor and some of the companions, like in their bubble spacesuits and stuff, and that looked pretty fun.
Yeah, those are pretty good spacesuits. I like those.
Cool.
Yeah, like I was thinking, I appreciate Loose Cannon's work, and I'm always glad to watch it. But I think generally, whenever there is some official BBC option, I'll tend to go for the official ones just to see like this is kind of how they want to present it these days.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I guess it, sort of good to like stick to the most official-ish version possible.
Yeah. And, I want to also respect the work of the animators who worked on it. So,
yeah. But of course, we always respect, Loose Cannon as well, and are eternally grateful for their contributions.
Yeah, for sure. Do you recall, since our previous recording however long ago, what the Cliff Dingler was?
Yeah, not in a super detailed fashion, but yeah, they had basically they were futzing about on the moon in a base, and they thought that they had maybe a problem with moon mice or moon rats, and then realized that that problem was actually moon Cybermen. And that escalated and escalated until they were pretty much, in Cyberman battles. And if I remember right, and they kept sort of coming down, or I don't know how you describe it, like getting afflicted with this black veins thing that would happen on their skin.
Yeah.
And then I think they'd like pass out and go unconscious or something. And so the group had ended up in the med bay, the sick bay on the moon base. And there was like some silver feet sticking out under the blanket on one of the beds. And I think they even tried zapping it. I can't remember exactly what happened, but it was revealed to be a Cyberman right there in their sick bay. And I think he started zapping as well.
Yeah, or I think he just points a weapon.
Yeah, okay.
And,
right.
Yeah. And yeah, everyone sees him, and Hobson, the guy like in charge of the moon base, who I guess kind of hadn't really believed that it was Cybermen. He's like, well, I guess you're right. It's Cybermen, all right. And one of the technicians tries to like sneak around behind the Cyberman, I guess like to attack it with a pipe or whatever. But it's just then this second Cyberman arrives in the room and fires its weapon at the technician, and he falls to the ground with his body smoking.
Ooh.
The two Cybermen...
Sorry, just to interrupt for 2 seconds. That reminded me of another joke.
Nice.
A smoking hot woman walks into a bar. She asks for an ice water and an ashtray.
Nice.
Sorry. Okay, continue.
So these Cybermen start talking to each other, and they confirm that Operational System 2 is active, and they are ready to start Operational System 3. And as they have this discussion, it turns out that the BBC redesigned them not only physically, but also like how their voices sound. So,
cool.
Yeah, instead of being kind of like the weird sing-songy electronic voice that they had a few serials ago, now it's just like totally mechanical and artificial sounding, like even more so than the Daleks. So...
Yeah, that's what I remember from the more modern Cybermen, is they're just like Daleks express emotion kind of when they're talking, but Cybermen were just very flat.
I did a little bit of research. I haven't looked too much into it yet. And you can use a ring modulator. You can use a ring modulator to produce a decent Dalek voice. But in order to make
a decent Cyberman voice, you need to use a vocoder.
Oh, I'd love me some vocoder.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And when you listen to this episode, listeners, you will know whether or not I figured out how to do the vocoder in GarageBand.
Nice. Well, I got you if you can't figure it out.
Nice. So the Cyberman informs everyone that the men who have been taken from the sickbay, remember they were like stealing the men with the black veins.
Yeah.
It turns out these men are not dead, according to this Cyberman. They were only altered, and they will be returning.
They're, my theory is they're getting somehow cyberified.
It happens to notice that Jamie has not received Neurotrope X. But before it can give it to him, Polly asks them to leave Jamie alone, and she mentions that his head is hurt, and the Cyberman is like,
His head is hurt. Then fuck that. We don't want him.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it's good to be a bit of a dumbass.
Totally. And so it demands that Hobson take it to the control center, and he refuses for about a second and a half, which is basically long enough for it to raise its weapon and point it at him, and for him to then immediately capitulate. So he leads it out of sickbay, and it orders everyone else to stay there or be converted.
Which sort of seems like, is gonna happen anyway.
Yeah, I kind of think that's the Cyberman's long-term plan.
Right. All right.
Yeah, I guess it's whether it's going to be now or later.
Right. I feel like they're a bit more ham-fisted than the Daleks were so far.
Yeah. We get a brief scene aboard the cybership where a Cyberman places some electronic stuff onto Dr. Evans' forehead. It's sort of like, kind of a headbandy device that goes over his head and then has like a piece that comes down over his forehead. And so it puts this on, and then it orders him to raise one arm, which he does, and then the other, which he does, and then it orders for him to be taken to the capsule to finish the conversion process.
Uh-oh.
Back in the control center, Benoit tries radioing the two guys that they sent out onto the surface to check on the antenna in the previous episode. But, of course, he can't raise them because they got taken by Cybermen. So he starts talking about sending some other guys out to check up on them in person. But just then, Hobby enters the control center with a couple of Cybermen in tow. And the Cybermen tell everyone that they're going to use the gravitron to destroy the surface of the Earth by changing the weather. Doctor's like,
But that will kill everybody on the Earth!
and the Cyberman's like,
Yes.
Duh.
Hobby starts talking about how childish the Cybermen are to be taking revenge like this, and the Cyberman is like,
Revenge. What is that?
and it reminds us that they don't have feelings.
Feeling. Yes, we know of this weirdness of yours.
So, yeah, it turns out that they are only here
To eliminate all dangers.
But you'll kill every living thing on the earth.
Yes, all dangers will be eliminated.
Awesome. I mean, if you think about it from like a Cyberman's perspective, the majority of Earth media is just there to like justify these weaknesses of feelings.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pathetic. I mean,
Pathetic.
Nice. The conversation kind of moves on to how the Cybermen got into the Moonbase. And the Cyberman's like,
It was very simple. Only stupider brains like yours would have been fooled.
and yeah, it turns out they dug an underground tunnel to the base and cut through the storeroom wall and contaminated the food supply and came on in.
nice.
A simple hole, that's all.
That's like some cartoon level shit right there.
Yeah, totally. And, Hobson finally realizes that this is obviously the cause of the mysterious air pressure drops that they only mentioned like once or twice in the previous episode. Hey folks, and welcome to the mid-roll. This is the part of the podcast where I ask you if you're enjoying what you're hearing, and if so, I suggest that you might tell your friends and you might leave us a nice rating and review on the podcast rating and review site of your choice. That's all I've got for you here, and now back to the show. Back in sickbay, Jamie wakes up and he's feeling much better. His head still hurts, but, much improved. They all agree that it's good that he was wrong about the McCrim and Piper showing up, but also the Cybermen suck, and it sucks that they showed up. Polly starts talking about wishing that the Cybermen had some kind of weakness, and Ben's like, don't you remember like 3 or 4 serials ago, their weakness is radiation?
Nice. Thanks, Ben.
Uh-huh. The Gravitron power pack produces thermonuclear radiation, but that's not really a viable option. Polly asks why not, and Ben's like,
Well, because, Duchess, the temperature inside is about 4 million degrees, that's all.
Right. Messing around with radiation, it's only going to fry you one way or the other, so we got to be really careful.
Jamie comments that,
Well, in my day, they used to sprinkle witches with holy water.
which gives Polly an idea. She realizes that the equipment mounted to their chest looks like some type of plastic, and she knows that nail varnish is a type of plastic, so they should just try sprinkling the Cybermen with nail varnish remover or whatever.
Nice.
So she goes off to start performing an improvised chemistry experiment.
Excellent.
Back in the control center, the converted men show up with another Cyberman, and we see that the converted men haven't been like fully converted into Cybermen yet. They still basically look human. They still have their like black veins from the Cyberman disease or whatever. And they all have the like electronic forehead control unit on their heads. But like, other than that, they look like, normal people basically. But they are fully under Cyberman control. So
like, is the head thing like a remote control type unit?
basically, yeah, that's what it seems to be. That's like their remote receiver.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, kind of later in the serial, it sort of either implies or just like straight out says that this is all like sonic control. They're sending out like audio signals, I guess, that the men are picking up on somehow.
Huh.
The Cyberman orders everyone in the control center to step away from their controls, and it orders Hobby and Benoit to clear the men out of, the sort of like power control room, and they do, and it orders the converted men into the room. This is like, the Gravitron sort of main control booth. Benoit objects and tells the Cybermen that the equipment in that room produces intense sonic fields, which will drive the men insane in about 12 hours if they're not wearing the protective helmets. So the Cyberman is basically just like,
that's fine. We'll totally be done before then.
And meanwhile, the Doctor sneaks over to the control panel and turns some knob, but a Cyberman sees him. He fails his sneak roll, basically, and Cyberman, resets the knob. Back in the sickbay lab, Polly pours some acetone into a beaker, and she drops a piece of plastic into it and just watches as the plastic dissolves.
Damn, how strong is this acetone?
Yeah, seriously.
Did they just use the the good shit back then, and today we've got a diluted version?
Uh-huh.
Cool.
Ben watches all this, and even after watching all this, he still doesn't really understand what her plan is. And she explains that they can sprinkle some acetone onto the Cybermen's chest units in the hope of softening them up basically and exposing them to attack. He points out that they don't know if acetone will dissolve the particular type of plastic that the Cybermen use. So they decide to mix up a batch of all the solvents they can find. So acetone, benzene, ether, alcohol, epoxy propane, just all the shit they can gather in the lab.
Nice. It reminds me of making, potions in the toilet as a kid, with all the stuff you could find in the bathroom.
Uh-huh. Yeah, totally. They start thinking about, how are they going to basically hit the Cybermen with this stuff. And Ben's first thought is have it in bottles. I guess sort of as acetone grenades or solvent grenades. But then he has a better idea, but the camera cuts away before he explains it.
Mm-hmm. Little mini dangler there.
Mm-hmm. In the control center, the Cybermen are issuing orders to the controlled men who are setting up the Gravitron systems how the Cybermen want. The Doctor sneaks back to the control panel that he was messing with earlier and rolls another sneak check and starts messing with it again. And he rolls better this time, and he's able to basically disrupt the Cybermen's control of the controlled men. They don't sort of regain their own consciousness or anything, though. They just kind of slump down for a minute.
Okay. Nice, though.
Uh-huh. the doctor like quickly turns the control panel knobs back to how they were set, and the men sort of become under Cybermen control again. And this was like before the Cybermen had realized what happened. And yeah, I guess this is what confirms for him that they are under sonic control.
Nice.
He's like, man, too bad we haven't thought of sonic screwdrivers yet. That might be really handy now.
Yeah, I was just like wondering, is this some sort of special usage of the word sonic that exists in the Doctor Who universe? Because like, yeah, it always seemed to be more than just sound.
He starts kind of speculating to himself about why the Cybermen went to all the trouble of getting controlled men to operate the gravitron equipment instead of doing it themselves. And he has this whole like two-sided conversation with himself where one side of the conversation is like entirely sort of whispered voiceover without his mouth moving. So I guess it's like thoughts in his head. And then the other side of the conversation is like actually verbal, but, quiet.
Nice.
And in this discussion with himself, he decides that there must be something in the gravitron power chamber, like the gravitron control booth that the Cybermen don't like. And he decides that it's probably gravity. So, yeah, not quite sure exactly what that is or means, but apparently the Cybermen don't like gravity in the gravitron control booth.
Yeah, like, I was just trying to think, like, what is the implication of that? Like, I don't even know where to go with it.
Yeah. So Earth Control radios the Moonbase because they have not received the most recent, like, routine check-in signal, basically. But the Cybermen order everyone to be quiet and to not answer the radio. Earth is like, if you can hear us but are unable to transmit for some reason, just fire the sodium rocket and like we'll see the flare from it and we'll know. And the Cyberman asks what will happen if they don't do that. And Hobby's like,
Well, no, they'll think we're all dead. They'll do nothing. Standing by to observe flare.
And the DM's like, Hobby rolls an 18 on his bluff check. And Hobby then like whispers to Benoit that actually what will happen, of course, is that they'll send up a relief rocket.
Nice.
Back in sickbay, it turns out that Ben's better plan is to put the solvent mixture into spray bottles. But they need to go find another spray bottle. I guess they don't have enough for all three of them yet. So Jamie offers to go get it. Ben and Polly tell him that he's not well enough yet. He's, I guess they're still like trying to follow concussion protocols. And
Smart.
He objects.
It takes more than a wee crack in the head to keep him a crimin down.
Typical. Okay.
But it turns out that Ben has noticed the construction and recent sailing of the HMS PJ, and meanwhile the good ship Pollen has kind of started to languish, and he comments on how he's sure that Polly is very impressed with Jamie.
Trying to get a feel for the wind in those sails, eh?
So Ben and Jamie kind of start bickering with each other a little bit until Polly cuts them both off. And Ben agrees to Jamie coming with Ben to find another spray bottle, but he tells Polly to stay here.
This is men's work.
Oh, so is this going to be a JB? Oh, wait a second. This is going to be the BJ ship.
Nice. Polly doesn't say anything, but the BBC animators gave her a very annoyed expression on her face when Ben tells her that this is men's work.
Good.
Yeah. She follows them anyway. She doesn't say anything, but she's like, bullshit, I'm following you anyway. They try to tell her to go back, but Ben decides that there's no time to argue about it, so whatever, it's fine, she can come. The three of them approach the control center, and I guess they have all the spray bottles they need now, because they burst into the control center and they're all armed with spray bottles.
Nice. Good way to solve that problem.
Nice. The doctor uses the distraction of them bursting in to turn the knob on the control panel again to disrupt the sonic signal to the controlled men. And Ben and Jamie and Polly all start squirting their spray bottles at the Cybermen's chest units, and it actually works.
Awesome.
Yeah, totally. The DM's like, yeah, it was a cool plan, so I kind of wanted you guys to succeed with it. That seemed fun.
Right.
The Cybermen's chest units all start to bubble and dissolve, and the Cybermen basically clutch their hands to their chests and just kind of fall to the ground. And the humans go into the Gravitron control booth and take the forehead control devices off of the controlled men, who basically all just kind of pass out and collapse. So Hobson orders them all to be taken back to sickbay, and the other people, quickly get to work on getting the Gravitron back into a safe configuration that's not gonna fuck up the Earth.
Nice. I mean, unfortunate that they, built it without the requisite safety rails, which would prevent that exact thing.
Uh-huh. Back in the cyber ship, the Cybermen there have, of course, stopped receiving transmissions from the Cybermen in the base, so they correctly surmise that those Cybermen have failed, and they decide to just go ahead and wholesale invade the Moonbase, so they start preparing their weapons. Benoit remembers the earlier plot points that kind of got forgotten about checking up on the antenna fixer dudes who got taken by Cybermen earlier. So he goes out to check up on them himself, and Hobby orders Niels up into the observation dome to watch Benoit, basically. And Benoit finds the empty spacesuits from the previous dudes and radios this information back to the base. But then Niels says that a Cyberman is coming to attack Benoit. Benoit rolls a 1 on his own perception check, so he thinks that Niels is mistaken until he turns around and there's a Cyberman right there behind him holding its weapon point blank at him.
Oh, critical fail.
Uh-huh. And the Cyberman fires the weapon, but nothing happens.
Did you see that? Those things don't work in the vacuum.
Nice.
Uh-huh. So I guess...
Oh, if there's Sonic, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that actually makes sense. kind of dumb that the Cybermen didn't think of that, but
right. Duh, you guys, come on. Even stupid Earth brains like would have some kind of projectile.
Benoit starts heading back toward the base. And the Cyberman, of course, follows him. And Ben rushes to fill a glass jar with Polly's solvent mixture. And he suits up in a spacesuit. Of course, the spray bottles also aren't really going to work out in the vacuum of space. Because as soon as you spray it, it's just kind of going to evaporate. So he goes back to the original plan of solvent grenade in a glass jar, and he throws it at the Cyberman. It hits the Cyberman's chest, and the glass smashes, and the chest unit starts to dissolve and everything. And Ben and Benoit are both able to safely get back inside.
Nice.
Hobby orders someone to try to raise Earth on the radio, and for everyone else to go lower all the armored doors at all the exits and entrances to the base. And he orders Polly to go mix up as much of the solvent mixture as she can. And meanwhile, the person operating ground radar thinks that they've located the cyber ship just a few kilometers away, kind of like over the rim of, the crater or whatever. The doctor starts asking Hobby about how far the gravitron can be lowered. And this is about 30 degrees is the answer. And that does not seem sufficient for the doctor's purposes. So he starts asking about, if there are any other parts of it that can be lowered. He doesn't ever actually explain what his purposes are. He just kind of starts asking questions about lowering the gravitron. But before this conversation can really go very far, Niels reports that there's something outside, so everyone heads up to the observation dome to have a look. And in the observation dome, they can see sunlight reflecting off of the cybership, so that sort of confirms its presence and location from the ground radar people. And as they watch, some ominous drums start up on the episode's score, and we see a whole squad of a dozen or more Cybermen leave the cyber ship and all start marching toward the Moonbase.
Uh-oh.
So Hobson orders everyone to get back inside and prepare for the upcoming onslaught. And as the Cybermen continue marching toward the ship, the words on the screen say Doctor Who Patrick Troughton.
Nice. Well, at least it was probably cinematic drums instead of a Scottish drum and bagpipes.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, that's cool. That was a fun episode. Definitely an original, fuck it, gonna keep going with the pun, solution. Leave it to Polly to have the good idea of, let's just melt their plastic. Their chest plastic things. That's cool. That is very unexpected and unique.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. I thought that was really cool.
I wonder if, thinking of other, sort of emotionless, mechanized bad guys, once you got through a Borg's personal shield, could you just dump solvent all over him and melt their pipes and their fittings and all the, crazy crap Borg had? It might just work.
Yeah, like they've got, a fair amount of metal, but it also seemed like there's a lot of kind of rubber and plastic and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I
their
feel like
wires were all insulated.
Yeah.
They had tubes and crap.
Yeah, for that matter, like once you're through their personal shield, you could maybe just like start grabbing tubes and wires and pulling.
Yeah, true. And I can almost picture that happening. I think maybe Data did that once, or Worf or something. But anyway, yeah, back to the original show that this show is about. Yeah, cool. Funny moment there with Ben and Jamie getting jealous over their respective ships. But, come on, guys, just jump on the BJ ship and everyone will be happy. I bet Polly would even be, relieved.
Yeah, probably.
Or maybe she'd want to sail on that ship too.
Yeah, like maybe she's on board.
Yeah. Well, cool. Good episode. Can't wait to see what happens. Like, sounds like we're in store for some epic battle scenes next episode. I wonder if they're going to stretch it like one episode or maybe two more, or how much more we have on this serial.
Yeah, it was kind of fun how like they sort of seemed like they were going to fix everything and solve it in this episode, but yeah, then turns out not. We're actually going to do like a whole invasion. Right.
I guess they did solve a few things. Now they need like a big hose filled with their acetone, whatever else mixture.
Yeah, totally.
All right, cool. Well, any further notes about this episode?
I did want to give a shout out to the Apple Podcasts user Codliver, who gave us a review. It was a little while ago that they posted it. By the time listeners hear this, it's probably a few months old. But Codliver said, "I've been listening for a while, but I just caught up. Great funny recap of classic Doctor Who. If you want a breakdown of those older series, you should listen."
Nice. Thanks, Codliver. Very kind.
Yeah, so hopefully Codliver is still listening. And yeah, thanks for the review. Thanks for giving us 5 stars. And other listeners, take Codliver as a good example.
Indeed. Good example of humanity. This person is obviously living on a high level, and we should all take that to heart and aspire to be that cool.
Indeed.
All right. Well, if we do want to follow in this incredible person's footsteps, what would one do to elevate their standing amongst the great humans?
Well, the best thing one could do would be to leave us reviews and ratings, and to tell all of your friends to listen to this podcast. And if you don't want to do any of that, but you just want to say hi to us, then you can also email us or hit us up on Blue Sky.
Excellent. And we hope you do, listeners. We hope you do.
Indeed.
All right. Well, on that note, I can't think of another solvent pun, so sorry. I guess I'll just have to sign off without it.
Nice. Well,
yeah, I do want to say thanks, Kyle, for describing this good episode of Doctor Who for me.
Indeed, and thanks, Ryan, for listening to me describe this episode of Doctor Who.
And thanks, listeners. Without you, we would still be making podcasts, but you wouldn't hear it. So Good job.
Cool. If you would like to hear if or how they solve the Cyberman problem, then come back in 2 weeks.
Yes. We'll be your solution people at that time. All right, cool. Well, I will see you in 2 weeks then.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye.
What is happening? There is loss of control.
Thought so. Sonic control. That should be easy. Funny. Go to all that trouble to make the men do the work. Why? Do it themselves easy. They're using the men as tools. Why? Dunno. Yes, I do, though. There must be something in here they don't like. Pressure. Electricity. Radiation. Heavy gravity. Now there's a thought. Gravity. Oh, yes. Gravity.